What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 584 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast hot tags of the week. I am Tony Mango, joined by Callum Wiggins.
Hello there.
And Robert E. Felice.
That is who I am. Hello.
That is who the three of us are, and this is what this podcast is, which is a breakdown of the current events and rumors and news and gossip and everything else that went down in the world of pro wrestling over the past few days that we feel like talking about, where we're going to recap TV stuff, talk about new tag team champions in AEW, give a little health update on Jerry the King Lawler, and a bunch of other things as well. And as we go ahead and do that, we want to know what you have to say, so drop your thoughts in the comments below or voice your opinion on all the different other ways that you can do it. And if you don't know how that works by now, go on the internet. You can figure it out. You're probably well past the point that you should understand how that works. But, tweets and Facebook posts and the stuff on the website itself, plenty of different platforms for you to tell us what you think. We definitely want to hear about that. And before we get into the hot tags and start breaking down these individual stories and stuff, I want to give some updates of some things that we want to promote or we want to fill you in on what's coming up and other ideas in mind of some other things to keep note of. One of them being that we are going to do, possibly after we record this, do another episode of the Darkcast over there on the Patreon and the members only channel membership side of YouTube. So we will, at least the current game plan for that is that we will do the call the spot for the two different Elimination Chamber sets of competitors. So we've got 6 people in both those matches. We're going to rank them on a scale from who is the most worthy of the Hall of Fame to the other spots on the card being up like a main event, upper mid card, jobber, and then eventually, unfortunately, you got to sacrifice somebody, and when you sack them, they get the released option for that. So it's a good way to kind of judge a totem pole kind of hierarchy system for that. And we haven't done one of them in podcast form in a long while. I mean, it's been a couple years, I think, at this point. So usually I should say 3 of them a year. One for the Elimination Chamber, one for the Money in the Bank, and one for the Survivor Series teams or War Games last year. And we're going to try to have a little bit more fun with that this time. So you get access to that by donating to or subscribing, I should say, to the Darkcast tier on either different method. And we also might incorporate something from the Smark Madness tournament that we are going to be having this time around, which I finally settled on a topic. It's going to be, what is the best pro wrestling dynasty or royal family or whatever you want to call these legacy family units, and some of them are way more detailed than other ones. You know, we've got like the Hart family, which is really big, the Anoa'i family, which is really big, and then you got other ones that are kind of a little bit more, this person gets married into this one, and then that they have a kid and they do this, and we'll be talking about different things like the Ortons and the Rougeaus and so on and so forth. So we might incorporate that into the Darkcast as well. And as I said, the way that you get access to that is to join the YouTube membership or to be on the Patreon Darkcast tier. You also have the Pick Poison and some other different levels of that. The $1 a month tier is even a great way to just keep my momentum going and keep my spirits up and to make sure that we keep the lights on here for Smark Out Moment and keep doing this stuff. And also, there's a little thanks button there if you want to help out on the monetary side of things that way. You could also do direct PayPal things. You could sponsor stuff through the Pick Your Poison tier. And you could also pick up some merchandise on Redbubble and TeePublic. I'm definitely interested in adding more designs for that. So if you ever have any options in mind of, a little product that you'd be interested in, then hit me up and we'll try to work on something, whether it's my limited graphic design skills, or maybe I can get my wife to draw something up because she's great at that. We'll see how that works. But also, when it comes to wanting to give back to you guys, and not just through, hey, look, you sponsor more content, you get more content, and that kind of thing, I also wanted to do another giveaway this year. And one of the things that we've got going on right now is another contest sponsored by Fun.com. These guys have been fantastic in the past, both Fun.com and HalloweenCostumes.com, so check them out for sure. We're doing another Road to WrestleMania contest, and this is going to go from right now, it's already up, all the way until a few days after WrestleMania. I'm going to shut the poll off on the Friday following that, the 7th, I think is what it is. 6th or 7th or 8th, something along those lines. But 3 people this time around are going to win a Dusty Rhodes Funko Pop. And the idea behind this is that, Cody Rhodes is getting his championship shot. He is trying to win the belt for Dusty Rhodes, who was not able to win that over the course of his career. And we're kind of celebrating that a little bit. So shout out to fun.com for sponsoring that. And if you want to enter, there are so many different ways that you can enter. One of them being just by clicking around and liking and following different things. One of them is to share stuff on social media, to retweet things. But you get a lot more bonus entries if you are subscribed to the Patreon. You get bonus entries if you pick up some merchandise. And, if you want to go ahead and browse the options, those are up there. Just go to the sidebar of smarkoutmoment.com and you will see a link with all the information of how to enter that contest. And also, stay tuned to something happening on Fanboys Anonymous. You can see it up on your screen right now, the Blueprint Project. I'm going to be doing something with it. I'm putting it out there for people that want to know more information about that and riding the momentum of something cool that happened yesterday. So if you are interested in the geek culture side of things, I know it's not pro wrestling, but you can see on your screen right now everything from Batman and Thor and Ninja Turtles and James Bond and Star Wars and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and Superman, and it's a big passion project. So the more support that you give for Smark Out Moment and the more support that you give for Fanboys Anonymous, the more that the other one benefits. So if you like both, you're the type of person who, I know that I get some people here and there that reach out and they're like, man, I really want to see both the pro wrestling stuff and the fanboy stuff. All that is awesome. And the more that you guys help us out, the more that we can bring you some awesome content, better content, upgrades, all the good stuff. So then we got that stuff in the books. We got some hot tags to talk about. One of them being Jerry the King Lawler had suffered a stroke the other day, and this was something I was worried was going to be a really, really bad hot tag that we would have to talk about. But thankfully, Jerry the King Lawler, man, he is like a rubber band. He gets hit with something and it just bounces back from him. We all know, of course, how he had his heart attack during Monday Night Raw, was declared legally dead for a minute or so, and was able to bounce back from that and still wrestle after all these years. I mean, that was how many years ago at this point? Like 7 years ago 11, or more? 11 years ago?
11 years ago.
So, I mean, that's insane just in by in itself. But he had a stroke the other day, and all accounts that I'm reading and all the news reports and all the updates that have been posted on his Twitter account and everything say that, it's a little bit of a recovery process and he's still regaining his speech abilities and his ability to move everything and all, but that he's basically just like, yeah, he's doing pretty well and he's on his road to recovery. And I think the last thing that I had seen, it might have even changed by now to even more positive thing, was that he was basically kind of on his way out of the hospital.
He has been released from the ICU.
Fuck yeah.
As of last night, this is the last time I've seen an update, was around maybe 6 o'clock last night, and he had been released from the ICU and was cleared to go home to Florida, where he will be continuing outpatient rehab, which will include speech therapy, and they said therapy to help with his cognitive issues following the stroke. I assume that's like some kind of occupational therapy. Don't know. I'm sure we'll find out more. As Tony already said, Jerry Lawler just seems to be the best poster boy for clean living, because Jerry wasn't a guy who did a lot of drugs. He didn't drink, and he just seems to bounce back. I mean, he's been wrestling alone for, I think, twice my age, so it's amazing when you think about what this guy has been through, and the fact that it went very quickly from, oh my God, it doesn't look good, prayers for King, to, all right, King's gonna make it out of this because he's the king.
Yeah, it wasn't long before there was a picture of him giving a thumbs up and just like,
and Jimmy Hart's there because he just always is. It's like
gotta feed him some baked potatoes and baked beans.
It's crazy.
Says a lot about the curative powers of Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I guess I'm safe.
Oh, but no, you were more of a Pepsi guy.
Well, no, I'm just too much of a soda guy, but I have both.
Because maybe that's the difference maker. It's like, oh man, if you wouldn't have only drank Coke instead of Pepsi.
But it is good to hear that he's making that recovery very quickly because, as you say, when you hear, especially a guy of his age who's been through as much as he has been through, both in the ring and outside the ring, hearing that he's had a stroke and then it's just like, I don't say like it's bounced off of him because there's still a lot of recovery that needs to be done, but just to I guess go the closest you can do after suffering a severe stroke to just shrugging it off, just moving on. It's just it's a very impressive feat for a guy that just refuses to stay down for long.
He, in old wrestling terms, when people do the whole like, oh, I hope he kicks out, and he's kicking out at a fucking 1, and that's great. Just sort of, not happening today. And he's going to go through, I'm sure, a lot of recovery things when it comes to physical therapy, and there might be like memory issues or all sorts of different things that come with this because the stroke is no laughing matter. It's something that's like that takes a lot of people, unfortunately, and obviously still hoping that we get more and more good news when it comes to that. But that definitely was a good change around from that story, from going, oh crap, I'm seeing that Jerry the King Lawler is trending on Twitter and it's because he had a stroke, to pretty much like the next day it being like, all right, he's doing pretty good, and very happy to report on that kind of thing being much better. We have an injury to report though. JD McDonough is out for an indeterminate amount of time with an eye injury. And I wasn't able to find any information about exactly what that is. Like, not like necessarily a broken orbital bone or, just got poked out in the eye in something, but
says that he said that he's suffering from a detached retina.
Ooh. Yeah, that can be good.
But it said that it should only be like a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Out and before he's back in action, but just seems quite again, knowing that it's going to be, it obviously sucks to suffer that kind of injury, but the fact that it's going to be a fairly quick recovery means you can at least joke about the fact that, they finally brought Dragunov back after he got injured by McDonough, and he comes in and he's immediately injured, so now they have to delay it even further. But
that's right where they went to too, and that makes perfect sense because it makes their feud more intense, and I'm all for it.
And there's a little gimmick infringement with Apollo Crews there. It's got that whole like the bloody eyeball and seeing the visions of the future, and JD McDonough's just kind of like,
maybe the visions were just slightly off. It wasn't the Australian, it was the Irishman.
If it's a detached retina, that's gimmick infringement on Rey Mysterio.
That's true too.
Everybody's just copying and pasting. It's all been done before, and
it's terrible to say that we can check off the box. Yeah, take a guy's eye out. It's been done before.
Yeah. I mean, what hasn't been done at this point, really? I mean, until you get to the point where it's like, nobody cut off somebody's nose or, well, I mean, I don't remember. It might have been because you can say, well, somebody's lost an ear. JD McDonough's got a character that's based off of studying the human body. They can play into this. And they can be like, let me explain what a detached retina is and what Ilya Dragunov did to me. And, I think that this actually, I mean, obviously it's not like, oh, I'm glad that this happened or something, but I think he can actually get something kind of cool out of it. And I don't think that he was necessarily
the business where you can go, oh, you detached your retina. Awesome. Let's work around that.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not going to be like a banker and somebody's just sort of like, did you hear what happened to Phil? I detached his retina. It'll also be good for business. Wachovia or some shit. But I didn't think that he was necessarily planned to do anything for like stand and deliver. They didn't give me that vibe that it was going to be anything other than maybe JD McDonough against Ilya Dragunov. So maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. Depends on how many weeks it's going to be
out.
out.
2 weeks.
It's only going to be 2?
Yeah.
Oh, then it's nothing.
Yeah, so we're going to play around with it, and let's do like an I Quit match at the pay-per-view or something.
I Quit match?
There you go.
We got some other things to talk about when it comes to some TV talk and all, but before we do that, let's mention a new signing to WWE, which is Blake Chadwick, who is going to be going by Blake Howard, because they, for some reason, feel the need to do that, which I think is so like bland and boring. Whatever. He has a little bit of a history of doing some announcing work and some other kind of commentary work, and he is going to be filling Sudu Shah's commentary role in NXT Level Up, a show that the three of us don't watch. So it's going to be a little while before we probably check out to see what happens with Blake Howard. But if he does have a history of doing that, then I think that that's probably a decent hire. And who knows? I mean, everybody gets shuffled around quite a bit. We might end up seeing Blake Howard be the new guy on Monday Night Raw soon enough. I know Kevin Patrick recently had some sort of an announcement for like he's going to start doing soccer.
Major League Soccer, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe that's a sign of some commentary shifts happening, or, yeah, maybe he ends up not working out and they keep him on for a year. Maybe he ends up being a couple months, like Adnan Virk. And maybe he's the new Michael Cole, for all we know. You guys have any kind of experience with Blake?
I've never heard of this man until today.
Yes, I can't attest to him being either good or bad.
I mean, my God, he's got the best first time ever to call, though. He's called like Axiom versus Scripps. This is the match.
I'm looking at some information of like what different things he was involved in. A lot of like pro wrestling stuff. So that's cool that they got somebody who has some history with that.
He's like a wrestling guy, huh?
Coastal Championship Wrestling, Combat Fights Unlimited, Only Stars Pro Wrestling. I haven't heard of these, but then again, whatever. West Coast Wrestling Connection is where he was there for 2 years, apparently. He had worked for WrestleCade, for Ring Warriors. Basically, he had been a part of wrestling, MMA, different kind of sports, things like that before. So if he's got a history of this, that means that
I'm looking at his reel right now. I'm instantly more intrigued knowing that he has a history in the medium, and now I'm hoping he can make a go of it.
I'm going to have to check him out after we get done recording, because I don't want to be listening to that while we're doing that. Just like, everybody hold on a minute. But I like that he's got that background, because that means that he does probably know the moves pretty well, that he knows the pacing of pro wrestling. He is somebody who clearly is interested in that, if that's the jobs that he keeps going for, as opposed to somebody who, we've said it before, somebody like an Adnan Virk, like probably fantastic for baseball, but it's not quite the same. And that applies to everything else. And I don't think people quite understand that. Just because you're in like the sports entertainment kind of bubble, you can be a pro wrestler and you can be a bad actor. You can be an actor and be a bad pro wrestler. You can be a really good commentator for basketball and have absolutely no idea what the hell you're doing with pro wrestling, because it's not the same medium. It's not the same thing. You don't do the same job. But if he's doing MMA and he's doing wrestling stuff, he's probably got a lot of experience that he can bring to the table. That's pretty cool. So I'm interested in checking him out.
He's done like Paragon Pro Wrestling, which has worked with Impact. I believe he'll be a good fit for at least the NXT brand, Good. Move Vic Joseph up to Raw. He's fucking great. Like, move him up.
It wouldn't shock me if we got another reshuffling around after Mania. Maybe even before that. Then again, that's not, don't look too into that. I don't know if I can know anything. I'm just kind of speculating. That's cool. I'll be paying attention to that. I might even check out Level Up just to see what he brings to the table tonight. Let's talk about some of the TV stuff. Bounce around here. Go to Monday Night Raw and all those highlights. We will, of course, talk more details about things like Edge and Finn Balor, or Edge and Beth Phoenix are going to go up against Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley. that's going to happen at Elimination Chamber. We'll talk about it with our predictions. We're not going to dive deep into that, but we did get some other little tweaks in the Elimination Chamber card. Damian Priest beat Angelo Dawkins to qualify. Montez Ford beat Elias to qualify. So we were talking about that before. We were thinking, Priest made a lot of sense. There was a chance that somebody else could come in and maybe, that would happen with something with Bobby Lashley or maybe somebody else or, this and that and that. But we're getting Priest. We're getting Ford. What do you guys think about the idea of Ford kind of just being thrown in here as like, all right, you're at Street Profits, but let's.
But we have a reality show to promote, so you better get your ass in that Elimination Chamber and dive off the pod, pal. We got a show.
You think it's mostly motivated by that?
Yes, and I also think it's, hey, we're giving you this because of this, but also, if you're good,
test the waters.
Yeah.
I think that his inclusion is primarily for that spot off the pod that will inevitably come. He'll hit a frog splash from the top of the pod, and that'll be the cool spot that everyone kind of remembers from this match.
I hope they don't, because, let's save the main event guy's knees and let's, not do two of these in one match. But you think they have him and Rollins do, like, one right after the other frog splash off top of the pod?
I don't think Rollins will do anything. Yeah. I think Rollins is there to get distracted by Logan Paul. I don't know if he can actually, because I don't know if Logan Paul can actually go into Canada.
Yeah, that might be the case. Seems like that might be an issue with the Usos too.
Yeah, I know.
So, I don't know what's happening with that. I didn't think about the reality show, but that makes a lot of sense because they do, if they patterned it after anything close to what they've done with these other shows, they do really like to have their, okay, well, this episode, Tez talks about, hey, I got this big opportunity. This is one of the biggest matches of my career. Then, who knows what's going to happen out of this. And they kind of build they might even build a whole season around that idea of just working your way towards that or something. I don't know, but
they just started filming at the Rumble. So
yeah,
they're just starting to form what the show will be.
I'm sure that's going to at least feature somewhere in there.
Yeah, probably mid-season or something.
But now it explains why Bobby Lashley's not in the United States title match, despite the fact that he had gone after Theory, is because Brock Lesnar came out and we've got a situation where he wants to fight Bobby Lashley at Elimination Chamber.
Which is fantastic.
And the first thing that comes to my mind is, what the hell do they do at Mania then? Because
Brock Lesnar and Gunther. It's like, you listen, I don't know anything, but I would like to dream, and that's the dream right now. If you're doing this, get it out of the way. Give me Brock Lesnar and Gunther in the IC title match.
I would like that. I would like that to be the case. I think the likelihood is that this match is going to some kind of no contest, and they're doing the actual match at WrestleMania.
I'm a little worried about that. Well, I think that they're going to have... Well, I mean, they could have it on the other night. I was just going to say they're going to have Hell in a Cell probably. But yeah, I mean, they could have the fight pit set up night 1 and Hell in a Cell night 2 or something.
I think the most interesting thing is that Lesnar's going to be showing up for 3 straight pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Well, we can only assume that he's going to be at Mania. I mean, the likelihood that he's not...
Assume.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's very...
throw everything at the wall at WrestleMania.
Yeah. Oh, they're bringing the wall back?
Move on.
I had to. Come on. What's the next thing? So I'm going to get to make a wall joke. But I am a little concerned that they're going to do some kind of bullshit thing where it is just sort of, all right, Leslie. Yeah, that's the. That's when you think Lashley and Lesnar together, and they just become Leslie. That's their new tag team name. Lashley and Lesnar just sort of brawl, and the match doesn't get started, and then that becomes, well, we got to contain them somehow, so it is a fight pit thing or something. But if not, I've been trying to think of other alternative ideas for the two of them, and I really do think that we're going to get Lashley reforming that Hurt Business group. But Omos being a part of that really doesn't make any sense to me, and I don't want to see Lashley versus Omos to be like in, hey, if I beat you, I'm in the Hurt Business, and if you lose, you're out, or any of that kind of thing. And I can't think of anybody that really stands out to be like, all right, well, Lashley fights Gable Steveson and Brock Lesnar fights anybody, because I still think we're getting Gunther against Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. And I don't know, maybe it's like something that we completely don't think about. Maybe they did sign Austin, and maybe it is just we're going to do Lesnar versus Austin, so let's get Lashley out of the way. They might not even have a plan for Lashley right now.
They definitely have a plan for Lashley. They're building that Hurt Business so that at the very least Lashley's covered in the months that follow Mania. But for Brock, if it's not Lashley again, and it's not Gunther, I legitimately wouldn't even know what he would do, so I'd have to throw something out like an Austin.
Austin and Gable Steveson are the two that I'm kind of a little bit, now that we know that Logan Paul's most likely going to be against Seth Rollins, it's sort of...
The thing with Gable is, it's one thing to throw Triple H at him. It's another thing to go, all right, let's see if you can hold your own with Brock, who might just dump you on your head.
And it's a little heavy-handed if he comes in and just beats Brock Lesnar too, and they're like, well, the next big thing beats the next big thing. But that could be the plan. I don't know. I'm not feeling super confident about the Gable Steveson idea. It's just one of those, like, if we don't get Lashley and Lesnar, they're too big to not have something else in mind. I don't know. Maybe it is just a fight pit thing, but that explains the absence of Lashley from the United States title match. And we got another person qualifying for the women's Elimination Chamber when Carmella beat Mia Yim, or Michin, I guess, Candice LeRae and Piper Niven, who is definitely still a heel at this point. I thought that they were turning her face, but nope, not happening. She's all pissy backstage and all. So, hey, Carmella comes back. She gets the spot in this match, and that's the thing. Again, we'll talk more about it with predictions side of things.
Well, let's talk about it a little bit here. She's back as the character that she got over with even a remix of the old theme song. There was no hint of the I'm the most beautiful woman in all of WWE. It was all leopard print. It was all
the hat,
the original fabulous gimmick. And I think that that's fantastic. And I love Carmella, and I'm glad she's healthy and happy and here. However, when looking at the three women she beat, and you're going into a chamber match, I wish it was anyone else. From a wrestling perspective, I wish it was anyone else. But I understand why they gave it to her instead.
Yeah, she is the biggest name out of those. She's the only one that's been champion. And she was the returning person in that way and all. So I would have gone with Piper Niven just to kind of change up the dynamics of the match and give her a little bit of a boost. But I'm down with it. I like all four. So there was kind of a no-lose situation for me. Any thoughts on the Niven situation and or Carmella, Callum?
No, I mean, none of those four are going to win the match anyway, so it didn't really matter which one they put in. I think it was, I don't want to sound too callous about it, but I think the reason why she was put in is because she suffered a miscarriage, and so they felt bad for her and decided to put her in the big match on her return. So that's the only thing, because just logically dictates is that, not that she is definitely like the biggest star in terms of the fact that she has won the women's title, but realistically she's had dozens of matches with Bianca Belair, it feels like, over one women's title or another. So just for the sake of like her going in is just okay, I can see why you've gone with that, but like she can't win.
Yeah,
not
that's
even
not
beyond not even beyond the fact of like, yeah, none of those were going to win anyway, but like she definitely can't win because we can't have another Bianca Belair versus Carmella match,
especially at Mania.
Yeah, so, I mean, fundamentally, again, we'll predict it when we get to it. It's down to two people who are going to win that match. So...
Well, only one person is really going to win that.
Yeah, only one person is likely going to win, but there's two people that probably could win, that have the most potential to win, and then the rest of them are just there to make up the numbers.
Well, our opinions might change in the next few days, so we'll dive more
I doubt it.
deeply into that.
I mean, in terms of my main one, it's not changing, but I do think Liv has a shot. And I think if they're really desperate, Raquel can do it because they have the history there. But I don't like anything Raquel has done since joining the main roster.
Well, the reason I ask is because you went from there's one person who's going to win. Well, there's maybe two. And I was like, there's three people in my mind that have a chance. Because there's also Asuka.
I've only got a serious one.
Yeah, and you just named her, I'm pretty sure.
No, it's Raquel. Raquel's going to win.
So it's funny. It's like that. Those are the three that are sort of just hovering around. And, I mean, we might get something on SmackDown tonight that might kind of indicate a little bit more. Maybe like Raquel turns heel or something. And then it would be like, okay, well,
Yeah. I mean, I was only going between like those two, between like Raquel and Asuka, just because I just don't think that like if Liv's going to win, she'd have to turn heel, and I just don't see that happening.
I think there's a chance.
Does she have to?
No, but like her story.
It would be weird if she didn't.
Yeah, her story's with Rhea, really. Like that. Like that's the rivalry between her and Rhea. So it would feel weird that she would go after Bianca after that, especially because she's a SmackDown superstar. But then again,
well, it could just be if you really got nothing else, you just tell the story of, the seemingly golden child in Bianca and the one who just got lucky in Liv, and you can tell that story with maybe Bianca being a little bit of a heel for that occasion.
Yeah, it could be
there's
a
way
case too.
to do it.
And I mean, like I said, maybe there's something that happens on SmackDown tonight. Maybe Raquel, maybe Liv turns heel. Maybe we get something indicating that like, they're heading in a certain direction or whatever. But at least for then, that's a thing. No longer a thing.
Is they could wake up that day and go, Natty hasn't gotten a one-on-one match at WrestleMania.
They could.
Give it to Natty. Like, honestly, they could.
They could just do something completely random and be like, look, we don't have anything really all that important, so it's going to go in the mid-card anyway. Whatever. I can pretty much rule out at this point it's not going to be Chelsea Green getting a spot and then doing that, since they've jobbed her out again. They're just going to keep that going. But JBL is no longer the manager of Baron Corbin.
And let's talk about it. What the fuck, man? Look, and I'm not even like, this diehard Baron Corbin guy. Like, why do you do this to the poor man? You literally had JBL go, I see so much in him, just to go, I
don't.
Yeah, you can't polish a turd, and you're just channel changing television. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, it's a burial of monumental proportions for Baron Corbin on this show, because not only does he lose to Dexter Loomis of all people, but then he is completely tarnished. It's not even a case of like just JBL saying, I'm not seeing any progress with you, I'm out of here. It's basically saying, you're the worst guy on this entire roster, and every time you're on screen, everybody turns the channel off. You're the reason why the ratings are so low. You might as well just said, you're the reason why we lost 500,000 viewers in the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
But I don't understand the logic behind this, because I don't know where you go from here with Corbin, because they've done this so many times at this point where they've blamed him specifically for being a guy that no one likes to see, and that a reason for people not enjoying the show, or the reason why, or some reason why the fans are turning on the product, seems to rest squarely with him of all people. And it's not a case of, as I say, I've never held anything back about the fact that I just don't think that he's that great. I think he's a competent worker and he's perfectly fine in a lower mid-card role. But now he's like beyond that point. He'd be lucky if he ever returns to the stature of a lower mid-card guy after this burial. And just the only thing that I can either see is that he either goes back to NXT, where he'll be treated as a star, because everyone that's ever been on Raw, SmackDown that goes down to NXT is treated like a star.
Yeah, gender.
Yeah. Or he goes away for several months and gets completely repackaged as his original gimmick, because that's the only time he's realistically been over, was his first run.
You know who I have to compare him to? Wade Barrett. Wade Barrett has the size and the legitimate, toughness, and they just like putting him in silly gimmicks. And it's the same thing with Corbin. Like, this guy should be a threat. And the worst thing he ever did was show that, like, he could play around. It's almost like what Moxley said, where he was like, damn it, I showed a bit of comedy, and then they just wouldn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that with Corbin. Why do you have to shit on Baron Corbin like this? And again, I like him, but it's not even like, oh man, he was my favorite WWE superstar. I don't get this. It's just, why? What benefit do you get from saying, JBL, oh well, I can't do anything with you. You've hurt my credibility for the rest of my life. You're just the worst. Well, why? Like, just honestly, at this point, Baron Corbin should just go. Like, go do something else. You're talented. You have a good head on your shoulders. Go do anything else. Like, fuck. It's so embarrassing.
What's confusing to me about this, as a Baron Corbin fan who thinks that he is better than what they give him, there are so many other ways that they could have gone about doing this. That makes me wonder if there is anything other in their mind other than that they wanted to bury him. And that sounds like there was, people start crying that the sky is falling and they're like, oh, he didn't get buried. Relax. It's whatever. We don't know how this is going to play out. And there's been many instances in the past where something like this has happened and fans have been like, okay, just hold on and wait. It might turn into something better. And then the next thing you know, you don't see anything decent from the person for 6 years or something. And I look at it and I go, well, if they just weren't really digging the pair, because I don't think that they really worked out all that well. Did you guys think that they were a really good pair?
I thought that there was something there that you could have done, but they didn't do it.
Did JBL help with the... Did you enjoy Baron Corbin more with JBL, Callum?
Oh, he fucking hates
JBL. Adding JBL to anything
you never know.
is going to make me enjoy it anymore.
Two negatives can equal cancel each other out.
No, because they started pushing him at the start with JBL, and as I say, like, I don't think that he should be buried this badly, but I definitely don't like watching Baron Corbin matches and having JBL be his mouthpiece isn't exactly helping it either. Well, I mean, one thing that Baron Corbin does have for him is that he's not a bad promo. He didn't need a JBL attached to it.
That's the other thing too, is I don't think that they really served much of a purpose together. And his character with the whole slot machine thing and coming out there and being all happy and all, it's just continuing on a character that wasn't really working to begin with. So they didn't steer too well into the JBL side of it being like, okay, well, he's super rich and we're going to do that. And they didn't steer into the pro wrestling god thing by having him win matches. So what was JBL doing other than just standing next to him? They don't have that Southern connection. He's not like he's a cowboy and they're doing the cowboy thing. There's nothing that puts them together. So if they wanted to just get rid of the JBL side of it, like JBL doesn't want to do it anymore, he doesn't want to travel, why not have Baron Corbin be the one that fires JBL? That way he can be like, you're not helping me out. You're just riding my coattails. And then he doesn't look bad. JBL can take the hit. He's the Hall of Famer. He's not wrestling anymore. And if you wanted to do something with not having this sort of character with Baron Corbin anymore, then transition him out of the character. But why have JBL ridicule him that much? So the only thing I can think of is either they just see so little in Baron Corbin that they're like, nah, let's just make fun of him because whatever. He could be our sad sack again. Or they think that this is going to turn into a babyface turn. Like maybe coming out of this, they go more into the, what did Pat McAfee, Bum-ass Corbin? And then maybe it's just sort of like, okay, well, let's start garnering sympathy for the guy. I don't think that's necessarily the right course of action either, but
I don't think it would work. I just think that genuinely people don't like Baron Corbin.
I think they like booing him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a completely unsympathetic character. If they tried to book him as a babyface, people will reject it. It's he needs to be a heel. But I just think that, I mean, it sounds like harsh to say, but maybe you run your course with him. He probably need out of all people, and sometimes you do need that kind of reset. Out of all people, maybe he's the guy that should be in an Impact or MLW for a bit and be a top guy there, and then see if he can rebound back after that.
Yeah, maybe. It wouldn't shock me though if there is something in mind about turning him face, if not just to be like, hey, look, we don't have anything for you for a little while, but eventually we're going to feed you to Gunther. And yeah, maybe that's the plan. But we'll see next week how they bounce back from this, and if they have Corbin just like whining and complaining and losing, or if they have him change his character up or reference it at all. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just don't show Corbin for a little while. Sean Benjamin, go ahead. Yeah, I agree.
Because honestly, with the way they've been reverting everybody back, I wouldn't be surprised if they're just like, well, people liked Sad Sack Corbin, so let's just do that. But it's like, yeah, it was funny for a minute. It was gonna get old quick, just because everybody liked. This is where I think internet influence is sometimes a bad thing. Like, if it's really that big of a deal because people are going crazy about it on Twitter, it doesn't always have to mean, oh, let's just do it again, because Twitter is fickle. Twitter changes on a dime. Twitter for the last 3 weeks has been trying to make it like people don't want Cody. Listen to the arenas. People want Cody. You know what I mean? Like, you don't always have to cater to that. Granted, I'm not saying JBL Corbin was great, but this just made me not want to see Corbin at all anymore. Like, just write off the Corbin character completely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as invested into seeing a rehash of the bum ass Corbin thing where they try to just go and he lost all his money again conveniently, or because the same thing with how I don't have any interest in returning to the Alexa Bliss character, where it's just like you're hitting the reset button, and I understand that. Not my thing. In any fashion, that's another whole thing that we'll pay attention to in the future, and we've got not too much else to talk about on Monday Night Raw, but one thing that was a pretty big deal, and this is something to speculate on what's going on in the future and how this is going to play into Elimination Chamber and Mania and all. We got that steel cage match between Becky Lynch and Bayley, and to come out to help Becky was Lita. It seems to be that they're going to probably do something, Becky and Lita, and maybe somebody else, maybe Trish, maybe we get somebody on the main roster that's normally there, or like just Meechin gets thrown in there or something, I don't know, against the trio of Damage Control. But then we also have Dakota Kai is currently injured, and I don't know what her current status is, so maybe she's able to fight back by then, maybe she's not. Maybe we get like Bayley and EO against Becky and Lita. Maybe we get something heading towards that direction for Mania. I'm a little bit surprised that they're going to do something like that for Chamber. But then I also think, well, Trish is Canadian, so that seems to make even more sense to me. You guys think they're going to go with this?
I feel like because it's Canada, they might just do Trish. They might just do a 6-woman. But then I go, look, if you don't have anything better for Becky and Bayley at WrestleMania, just save the fucking 6-woman for WrestleMania, Like, if you're going to do this match, if that is your plan, and you can either do it at Chamber or Mania. I'm fine with it at Chamber if you have something better at Mania, or at least something at all at Mania. If you don't, then save this match for WrestleMania.
If I was going to just step into the world of fantasy booking, what I would probably do is I would have Becky and Lita versus Bayley and Io for the women's tag titles. You essentially freebird the titles because they are part of Damage Control. Do that at Elimination Chamber. You have Becky and Lita win, and then they defend it against Ronda and Shayna Baszler at WrestleMania.
I'm all for getting Becky and Ronda on the opposite ends of the ring at WrestleMania. I don't know if I'd want to sacrifice Lita in that way.
It's not sacrificing Lita. She gets both a match. She gets to become a tag team champion.
That's
and
true.
She gets to wrestle both at Elimination Chamber and then gets a marquee match against Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania. I think that's probably, considering she's no longer an active wrestler, I think that's probably pretty good going.
Wait,
Yeah,
so break that again. Who did you have for what?
So I'd have Lita and Becky defeat Bayley and Io for the tag team titles at Elimination Chamber.
And then they go into Mania as tag champs against
Ronda and Shayna.
And then what do you do with the Damage Control? Just
likely nothing.
Not incorporate them.
I don't know if Dakota is healthy enough will be healthy enough to compete by that point. I mean, the only other option you'd have is that you make it some kind of, fatal 4-way tag team match.
Yeah.
You throw in Damage Control and you throw in some other tag team like, I don't know, Candice LeRae and Mia Yim or something. And you fill it up that way so they feel like they have something to do. But realistically, it should just be a straight up tag team match. You just have those two win it here because Becky's a big deal. So she's going to have a match at WrestleMania in some fashion. Like, Damage Control are definitely like big names, but Becky is far surpasses them. Lita is a Hall of Famer and a name that a lot of people resonate with. So she's someone who fits the WrestleMania mold as a returning legend. And then you put them against Ronda and Shayna with the inbuilt rivalry between Ronda and Becky, and that makes that women's tag title match much more important than it otherwise would be if it was just Damage Control against Ronda and Shayna.
It is a little hard to juggle all these people because it's not like there are inherently a lot of like people that you could just do triple threat free bird thing, or it's like Damage Control against Becky and Lita and Trish against Ronda and Shayna and blank. Like, that wouldn't make any sense. And if you just have Ronda and Shayna, then you have Becky and Lita, and there's no Trish involved whatsoever, then you're leaving at least one of the Damage Control people out, and then who gets to sit that out? And it's I don't know. I mean, maybe they don't have something quite set in stone for Mania right now. Maybe it is just Elimination Chamber, but I am thinking that they're probably going to incorporate Trish. Wouldn't shock me. So that's another thing to say tuned to. Let's oh yeah,
the match that we waited 2 weeks for, the cage match was perfectly serviceable, and I felt like this was the move they were going with anyway, because remember, they did bring Lita in for Raw 30. She just didn't get to be on the show because this was the plan. And I ultimately feel like the wait for a lot of fans, it satiated them. I just sort of feel like, it wasn't that crazy to where you couldn't have just found a way to do it on the damn anniversary show and moved on. Because now you have 1 week to build whatever you want for Chamber, and then whatever else is happening will happen.
Realistically, though, I mean, when it comes to bringing in a legend, the build for it is the match is happening, and that's lazy, and it's not the best possible scenario, but they're gonna be like a lot easier to deal with that than if it was, hey, we're suddenly randomly doing something with Dana Brooke, or we brought Xia Li over and she's gonna be like People will be like, oh, it's Lita. Cool. We get to see Lita. Let's move over to NXT. Talk about that.
We've got to talk about Cody and Paul Heyman.
Oh God, why did I not mention that? That was
literally the best part of the show.
Realistically the only reason to watch Raw was the Cody and Paul Heyman segment.
Yeah, for some reason I skipped that on there. Yeah, that was a fantastic promo.
Yeah, it's like, I know that there's been the whole discussion about the whole should it be Cody, should it be Sammy, but Sammy in the end of the day is getting the match at Elimination Chamber, and there are different ways they could go about that one, but we'll save it for when that actually happens and when we end up doing our predictions for it. But the issue that I'd had with the Cody story is the fact that there's no inbuilt rivalry with Roman Reigns. And it's a case of, well, the story is Cody wants to be WWE champion and Roman is the current WWE champion. So that's the story. And so they pull Heyman in there, as he typically will do. And him and Cody are both great promos anyway. But then they add that extra layer of the history between Paul Heyman and Dusty Rhodes and their time in ECW. And then Heyman pulls out the killer line of, you always your father's favourite son, but my client is the son that he wishes he always had. And it's like, okay, now you've just decided to add a layer of personal vendetta into it, but it's like that because of Dusty's involvement in running NXT, he was an architect of what Roman Reigns ended up becoming. And so it's just the idea that a guy who isn't actually related to Dusty, but was one of Dusty's kids, as they referred to them in NXT at that point in time, has gone on to be way more successful and be the star guy of WWE, whereas his actual son, in comparison, is a disappointment. So that was really good, really well done to add an extra depth to a story which could have potentially just been a little bit flat in comparison to the heated rivalry between Zayn and the Bloodline.
Yeah, you got a couple weeks that you need to start heating this up, and I know that a lot of people are upset that the Sami Zayn thing is quote unquote being pushed aside already, but realistically, what else are you going to do? I mean, it's going to be Cody versus Roman Reigns, and you're not going to get anything good to come out of that. Like we're going to get Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens against the Usos for the tag titles. It's going to happen. It'd be crazy if it doesn't. And that would be fantastic if it just wasn't this other thing in mind that people had where they're like, yeah, that's an A type of option, an A+ option, but I've got an S tier option in my mind and now I hate it, And in the meantime, are you just going to not do anything with Cody Rhodes and just act like, well, we'll wait until the Sami Zayn thing's done and finished, and then we'll start getting into it. And then for 2 or 3 weeks, Cody just says, hey, I'll fight somebody, but I don't want to talk about it until after Elimination Chamber. No. And you don't want to build the idea of, he mentioned it on this promo. He said, I might face Roman Reigns, but I also might fight Sami Zayn now that that's an option. You don't want to put that divide out there, because the more that you put it out there of it might be Cody versus Sami, the more people are going to want a triple threat, and the more people could potentially turn on Cody by being like, and if I have to pick, I got to pick Sami. So you're building more of a heated rivalry with Roman and Cody, the way that it's going to end up, and slow burning it a little bit, because he hasn't interacted with anybody in the Bloodline other than this. And he can do weeks worth of a match against Solo Sikoa and a 6-man tag where it's the Usos and Solo against Sami and KO and Cody, and a promo where Roman cuts where he says, hey, my lineage is better than yours, and runs down, look at my family, like all these titles that we've had, look at your family, it's fucking polka dots and the gold dust wig and shit. They can get a lot more personal, and this started fanning the flames for that. I think this was one of the best things that they've done for this feud, for sure.
I told you guys this is how it was going to go. I said the story is going to be, hey, Roman trained with Dusty. I knew that they were going to be fine. My biggest fear was that people wouldn't allow it to be good, but as soon as they did that promo, everybody immediately switched to, all right, we have a show here. And thank God, too, because, God, that promo was good. And Cody getting emotional at the ECW thing, Heyman, whether he got legitimately emotional or not,
I think he did.
Was beautiful as well. And then the phony, he told me in his last conversation with me, Roman was the son he always wanted. It's just the perfect bit of you tell them the truth about A, B, and C, and then D, if you're veering off, they still have reason to believe there's a hint of truth. And as far as Cody acknowledging Sammy, I thought that was the most perfect 80s babyface thing to do, where it's just like, hey, this is technically a possibility. I want to acknowledge it because I'm acknowledging our storylines. And Sammy, my friend, I hope the best man wins. And then it's perfect.
So, a reminder, everybody, if you have Cody Rhodes and Dusty Rhodes and all that in mind, definitely sign up for that contest. Win yourself a little Funko Pop of Dusty Rhodes, American Dream. Why not? We have high marks when it comes to that. Some decent things happened on NXT as well. We got some build upon what happened of NXT Vengeance Day. Some of the stuff, obviously pretty straightforward, what we expected. One of them being that Fallon Henley was upset that Kiana James had cheated to win the tag team titles, and that she brought up the idea of the phone thing again, and, hey, I'm going to expose that to Brooks Jensen. I don't know what's going on, which Kiana James said once again, I'm talking to nobody. So they're really setting up the idea that it's going to not be anybody and it's going to be a misunderstanding and all. But in the process of that, they played into the romantic comedy trope of that stupid party backstage, and then I got to tell you something. Oh, I got to tell you something too. I really like Kiana James. Okay, well then I won't say anything. It's so bad. I hate that trope so much. But they're slow burning that a little bit. And in the meantime, Caden Carter and Katana Chance are just like, fuck it, we're turning heel now.
Why? Well, first of all, they have won me over completely with this stupid storyline. I'm actually just a huge fan of the nonsense and the cheesy romantic comedy tropes. But why the fuck are Katana and Kaden just like, well, we're friends, so we just have the right to be bitchy to everybody else because we're friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? Why?
It's just generally bad character work.
they've been heels forever and ever, at least for me. Anyway, they're extremely unlikable as characters, and so they've decided to just go the full. I guess they've decided to use the catalyst of being screwed out of the women's tag team titles as a reason to be super petty and angry at the world now. And so I don't know why they feel like going up to the singles women's champion and saying, get us a title shot, get us a rematch. Like, no, it's not my responsibility. Go talk to we have a general manager, and go talk to him about getting this thing sorted. But like, no, we want to talk to you, and we're gonna you don't have any friends, so we're just gonna beat you. Basically saying like, oh, we know that you don't have any friends, so we're gonna fight you in a 2-on-1 handicap match. Like, okay. And then
it's especially weird considering Fallon Henley was like, we're going to give them a rematch.
I know.
So they're getting the rematch. And yeah, they might be, pissed that they got cheated out of the titles, but you're getting your rematch. Why are you mad at the champion for that? Like,
they did this a couple times on NXT where they were just acting like, are you not watching the show? Because they also, not only that, where it seems like Casey and Casey didn't, hear what the champion said, but when they did the thing where Thea Hale got abducted by Ava Raine, Vic Joseph is like, well, where is she? What happened to her? We last saw her with Tiffany Stratton. It's like, You didn't see Ava Raine just run off with her. It wasn't like they didn't show it. You know, I don't understand how that works.
Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of Casey and Casey turning heel and trying to do that because I don't think that they could pull it off. But fuck it. I mean, the alternative is that they stay exactly the same as they are and they do exactly the same work. So whatever.
Well, the major good thing out of it is that we're getting Meiko Satomura is coming back.
Yeah. Meiko is going to be teaming with Roxanne Perez to fight Casey and Casey.
And I think that is the indication that the match at Stand and Deliver is Roxanne Perez versus Meiko Satomura for the women's title.
That could definitely be the case. And
it has an inbuilt story as well, because didn't Roxanne challenge Meiko Satomura when she was still the UK Women's Champion? It was like in the build-up for that triple threat unification match they did.
And it was either in the build-up or in
Just
the
after
immediate NXT that followed.
Yeah, and Roxanne lost that match to Satomura, so there's an inbuilt, like, I need to get the win back over you. I'm willing to defend my title to get that. And that, I think, just as a straight up match, that's the best thing they can put on the women's side at that show.
Yeah, I'd be all for that. I'd be all for Meiko winning.
I'd be sticking with Roxanne, but yeah, I mean, the match would be good, and you've got to build in.
NXT is at their best when there's a Japanese women's wrestling champion. That's when NXT is at their best. I would like to get back there, please.
Well, Shayna wasn't.
But Io was, and
Asuka.
So was Asuka. And Kairi, who Shayna beat.
Yeah, that's true. Poor Saray. This didn't work out. Zoe Stark beat Sol Ruka. They're definitely building Sol Ruka up some more. Not too much really to break down on that side of things. Isla Dawn and Alba Fire have a whole thing going on with Tatum Paxley and Ivy Nile now. Dabba-Kato came back in action. He beat Dante Chen. And, I mean, it's not surprising considering one of them is big and the other one's not. We know which one's which. So afterward, Kelly Kincaid asked him, why did you turn on Apollo Crews? And he said, he knows why. he knows what he did. He knows what he did. And I don't know. I mean, I'm still confused about why they're necessarily going with the Dabba-Kato thing instead of the Commander Aziz thing. I don't know if they're going to bother.
Everything that happened to those poor people that got called up.
Yeah.
That is all this is.
But I'm glad that they're going to be doing something with him. Because, man, he's been in this fucking system for way longer than...
Did he fight Kevin Owens?
Well, you figure his first...
Well, no, because he had the whole run on the main roster, didn't he?
His first real foray into this was the Greatest Royal Rumble.
Yeah, that's just because, hey, we need a fat guy because they want Yokozuna.
Well, no, that was the...
Oh, that was the other guy.
The other guy. The Hiroki Sumi, I think it was his name.
That's stupid.
Yeah, Babatunde was just like, hey, he's tall. He's big. But yeah, he's been a part of the NXT system for a while.
In the Netflix movie that we still haven't watched. Yeah, I think there's certainly worse people you could, do something with.
I can't help but to feel like he still isn't going to end up manifesting anything out of this.
He needs to be Jade's bodyguard like he was on a couple of those house shows. I think she would benefit from a heater, and I think it gives him something to do, and it lets her live out her AJ Lee fantasy a little bit more, because that's basically like her Big E.
I still feel like he's better as somebody who should go into Hollywood.
Yeah, but for right now, they have him, so, use him. And then when Amazon starts making the next Bond film, there you go.
We'll see whenever the fuck that happens, since they're waiting so goddamn long. But yeah, maybe it'll be something along those lines. So Dabba-Kato and Apollo Crews, that feud is trickling down. We got some more Carmella Hayes stuff. We got some more Tiffany Stratton stuff. Valentina Feroz still not wanting to necessarily use the brass knuckles, but becoming closer and closer to being able to do that because she actually put them on. Not my favorite story. Kind of just want to skip to it. Like just put them in a tag team and I still wouldn't care. But skip to.
I feel like NXT has 3 stories. Shawn and Diesel. I don't want to turn heel, but I'm eventually gonna say fuck it and turn heel. And Braun Breaker has lame storyline that leads to good match.
Sounds about right. Sanga did the whole I don't want to turn heel, but I will. You got I'm part of your tag team, but I don't want to be. And offshoots of that, like the do cuts and stuff. Yeah. What else we got? We got the Jensen stuff. We got that. We got Stratton stuff. We got Wesley is going to have an open challenge next week. He suggested that maybe Tony D'Angelo or that Stax would do it. Some other people popped in and suggested that maybe they'll take a title shot for that here and there. Maybe, I don't know. Stax beat Odyssey Jones, so there kind of seems to me like they're building up Stax is going to fight Wesley. And then you build towards Wesley versus Tony D'Angelo at Stand and Deliver. But maybe they do different direction.
Yeah, I assume this is all leading to a ladder match.
Multi-man.
But hopefully somebody gets... who can get to the ring really quickly? Scripps. I can jump...
Yeah, I'm totally fine with Scripps not being involved in a title match.
Do something. He jumps. That's what he does. He jumps and he flips. Put him in a ladder match. What else are you going to do with this guy?
True. Maybe he could just not be a part of the match other than the couple of spots he does.
Yeah, just let him flip a couple times and then you're out. Okay.
But we got Pretty Deadly is seemingly going to be going up against Gallus in a title match. Sure, why not? Whatever, we've seen it. But the Ava Rain, Thea Hale stuff, that was a little clunky, like you mentioned.
It was only clunky because they were acting like they didn't see what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I think this works. We're going to see Ava have a match soon, so yay. And we'll go from there.
Well, going from there, the biggest story from NXT was the Ding Dong Hello segment that Bayley had with Toxic Attraction, which really didn't make much sense to me because if you look at it, Bayley pops up in NXT to try to convince another tag team to not split, that she has no connection to whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, they could talk about, oh, well, maybe we'll go after your tag team titles. And she's like, no, don't do that, but don't split up either. I don't know what the personal investment was supposed to be here. But it ends with them being like, all right, well, we're back to being a team again, only for Jacy Jayne to turn on Gigi Dolin. Toxic Attraction's done. Can't say I'm a big fan of it.
First of all, Bayley was here because Shawn Michaels booked Shawn Michaels, and they had to do a barbershop segment. And I mean, this was almost as close as you could get a shot for shot barbershop segment. They hug, they raise each other's hands, super kick. Didn't go all the way through the door. So she had to improvise and kick her while she was laying on the door. But I think she was meant to go through the door and go, there's your barbershop segment. Yay. This is where I saw it going, and I'm mad at them for getting me excited for the possibility that they could do something cool and go, or we'll just beat you up, Bayley, and go to Raw and take your belts. Because that would have been like, oh, that was a fun idea. What a nice way to write them off of NXT. But no, we're going to get this match at Stand and Deliver. And right now, it seems like Jacy is poised to be a major heel star for them. And Gigi could absolutely work as a babyface. And, fun segment. It's just like becoming more and more apparent by the weeks that like Shawn Michaels is just booking the stuff that got him over, which is fun to watch.
Yeah, I thought this whole segment was way too campy to be taken in any way seriously. And splitting them up, I guess, is not super. It's not beneficial in the fact that I don't think either of them are strong enough singles wrestlers to merit this going anywhere well. But I've kind of added Jacy Jayne to the list of people that potentially could beat Roxanne Perez for the title down the line if they do decide to persist with pushing her. And yeah, they probably will have a match at Stand and Deliver. It probably won't be very good because I don't think I think Jacy is competent. I think Gigi is very weak in the ring. And so I think the match, they'll do some sort of like weapons match to smoke and mirrors it as much as possible, but I'm not exactly looking forward to the breakup angle. And I guess the one other main talking points from this segment was that kick to the face.
Oof.
Yeah, that was okay. So yeah, the door didn't open as it seemed like they were expecting it to. So she just legitimately booted Gigi right in the face. Like you saw the she shared pictures of the bruise on her eye afterwards. And yeah, don't do that because you could, like, if she'd accidentally have, like, you know, broken her orbital bone or something along those lines, that essentially is that feud completely written off for a while, which might actually be to the benefit of Jacy as and actually both of them, because it means that Gigi could come back, I don't know, weeks and months down the line, and she'd get a bigger reaction, but rather than like she'll be back in a couple of weeks' time and building towards a match in a couple of months. So I think that I'm not exactly excited about this whole thing, but that is coming from the perspective of someone who hasn't been excited about the whole toxic attraction thing for its entire duration. So I'm not exactly going to be thrilled about the fact that they're now trying to make two of them singles people. To have to watch them in separate matches moving forward.
When's the last time you were excited about NXT? Not even being funny, just like a genuine question.
Like way before, like 2019, probably.
Yeah.
Like probably toward the back end of the first Gargano and Ciampa feud. Maybe when Cole first, like the first couple of weeks and months when Cole was the champion.
Would you say like Survivor Series was the end of that era of NXT?
Oh, well, when they were in the Survivor Series.
And they were actually like in Survivor Series, yeah.
Yeah, around about that point in time. After that, it's just especially after the pandemic, it's just not been any good. I'd say I kind of roll my eyes a lot when we're doing the segments on this because I try and get involved, and I watch this segment so I can at least talk about this one, but most of the time I just go, yeah, that happened, because I just don't care.
Yeah, it's not for everybody.
No.
Well, you do get more excited when we talk about AEW.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can talk about some good and bad in this one, because there was a lot of good stuff, and there was some stuff that's
a fair share of bad.
Could have been better. Yeah, I'll say that. I'm going to try and defend one of those things, and people are going to claim that this is the biggest stretch that I've ever done for AEW, but we'll see.
All right, well, first things first to talk about, we got the MJF and Konosuke Takeshita match.
Great match.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot bloodier than I expected that it would be.
Well, it was bloody after, but, great. Just bell to bell.
Yeah, they did the stuff that you'd expect them to do. I mean, Takeshita hasn't had a bad match since he joined AEW, but he typically loses on TV, and so they did here, and that's to build up MJF for the match with Danielson. It's good to get MJF on TV wrestling for a change. I think it's good that they don't do it often, but he needs to at least probably once a month. It's probably a good ratio to have.
Well, one of the storylines that was a through line through this, and Bryan Danielson also had his match against Roche.
That's even better.
Carrying on throughout the night. there's a thing that happened where MJF cut a promo about how he got into a car accident and then he swapped his passenger, this girl that he was with, which I thought that some parts of this promo I thought were hilarious. But they implied, of course, talking about the idea that like, oh, well, she got in trouble for the car accident instead, and I'll do anything that it takes to succeed and all. And then some people thought that they had been calling the cops and like trying to report this as like a crime. And then other things came out and said that that's not necessarily true. And where's that report coming from? That might not have even happened whatsoever. They might not have gotten any phone calls from that. Is that the thing you're trying to defend?
Oh no, there's a lot of segment. There's a segment further down the show which I'll be defending. But
if anyone legitimately called the Nassau County Police Department, don't call yourself a smart man. No, for real. Like, do not think that this guy was openly admitting to doing this on live TV and go, I know I'm smart to wrestling. No, you're not.
Yeah, but that's that real stuff, though.
I typically don't mind, TV characters being like absolute assholes in terms of that, because he's a TV character. That's what he is. So
yeah, we got a glimpse of the real MJF.
Yeah, this week with the Nash Carter stuff.
Yeah, they just at least when I was listening to a review of the show by Brian Alvarez, he said that there are elements to this story that are true, which is the case that he did actually get involved in a car accident with, I think, some friends, like in his car, like where he aquaplaned and just crashed. But it wasn't this exact scenario. He's just taken like that and extrapolated into a story which makes him look like the ultimate dickhead, which is what he does week in, week out.
Yeah, which is good. So I don't see why people are like, oh, they crossed the line with this. And
they did that, yeah. But then they did the whole funny thing of like them trying to barricade the trainer's room door to stop Danielson getting out, which I thought was just funny, because it's like it was a bit like the picture-in-picture thing. It's almost like a game show where you're trying to beat the clock, trying to get in before Aubrey can get the 10 count, and then he has the match with Roosh, and that it's a justification of we don't really need Andrade anymore. We've got Roosh now, and Roosh is fine. Roosh is better than fine. He's done so well since joining AEW. I don't think anybody expected him to be at the level that he's performing at.
Well, that stuff I thought was all good. I wasn't a big fan of Jamie Hayter against the Bunny.
No, so the Bunny got hurt.
Yeah.
So they did they were doing like a sequence of Jamie Hayter she hit an exploded suplex and then went for another exploded suplex. I don't know what really went wrong there. I don't know if the Bunny didn't go up, but she went up heavy essentially. And I think the way that I heard it described is that it wasn't the throw itself, but it was that Hayter accidentally landed on the Bunny's face. So obviously that they just went straight to the finish. So they probably were going to get more time. It still wasn't going to be a great match, but Hayter's recent standards anyway. But it ended on a bad note. And they had the dumb segment backstage of Saraya and Tony Storm spraying an L on Leva Bates.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that.
No, they're trying to do the Outsiders gimmick with them, and
why? The company was accepting of Tony, and it seems like it's just maddening to me that one failed promo from Saraya launched all this.
I mean, I've been totally cool with the story for the most part, because you can build it up with the idea that like she was friends with Saraya back in WWE, and she's corrupted her into thinking that she's above everyone else in AEW, and they should be the big stars because they have been a place where, like, the whole story for them is that they've been in the place where the real stars are, and they're trying to prove that the AEW people are all losers. And that's kind of the whole outsider shtick with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall when they first came into WCW. So I can understand the logic behind it. It's just not being executed that well at the moment.
Moving on here, we got the Ricky Starks Gauntlet. What you got to think about that?
I don't understand. Okay, so I can't take credit for this. I cannot remember who said this, but someone on Twitter said, just like we used to have the Cody verse, it feels like we have the JAS verse now, where everything that this faction does feels completely disconnected from the rest of the program. And yeah, that feels right to me. Like, I don't know why Ricky Starks is going through a gauntlet to fight a guy he already beat. I don't know why.
Because those guys then put him through a table several weeks later.
Yeah, I get that, but couldn't he just say, like, hey, then let me shift my focus instead of going, yeah, I'll just beat all of you in one night. Like, it feels very weird to me, you know? And then it's another, I don't know, I'm not feeling the whole Jericho Appreciation Society right now.
No, I don't think the segment itself was a win by any stretch of the imagination. I think having Jericho come out and attack Ricky Starks while dressed as a luchador for some reason made that any better. I think that again, I'm not adverse to the feud in general because I get the fact that Ricky Starks got taken out by the Jericho Appreciation Society a couple of weeks ago and say he wants another match with Jericho, and Jericho's now going to make him run through hoops to get that match.
Which I'm so tired of as being like the main story that they do. How many times have we gotten you need to beat a series of people to be able to fight the heel thing? It's MJF and it's Jericho almost like every 2 months or something, it seems. And now we got 2 at the same time.
Yeah, it can get a little bit repetitive. So I think that we just have to grin and bear it until we get the rematch. Will obviously happen at Revolution. Hopefully they have Starks win again and just draw the line under it, because we need to start. I think this is now the time where you need to start building towards whatever the end goal for the Jericho Appreciation Society is.
Yeah, I agree.
A lot of people have been lost in the shuffle with that too. Like, I don't feel like Daniel Garcia matters anywhere near as much now than he did 7 months ago.
No, I think you're right. They made the wrong decision by having him stay with Jericho. I think when it happened, I thought it was quite an interesting swerve, but then they haven't built on it the way they should have done. And so he doesn't feel anywhere near as big as he would have done if he'd been a babyface and joined the Blackpool Combat Club.
Yeah, maybe you do Starks. Hey, if I beat you at Revolution in a cage or something, the Jericho Appreciation Society has to disband, and then you go from there. But like, I need a reason for like Starks to really say, not only am I going to beat you, but I'm going to
get something out of it.
Yeah, because it goes back to the Eddie Edwards thing Eddie Kingston thing, where it's like you beat him, and then he lost every other match to him, and what did you get?
I mean, I still hold that Eddie probably would have got something out of it if he hadn't had a really shitty barbed wire match and then punched Sammy Guevara backstage.
I'll agree with you there.
People tend to forget that part because they like Eddie Kingston, but realistically, he had a really bad match, and then he assaulted one of his fellow roster members backstage, and people went, "Oh, I wonder why he's not getting on TV as much anymore."
That's a fair point. I'll grant you that.
The Trios champions retained over Top Flight and AR Fox.
That was a great match. Yeah. Again, I'm never ever going to bemoan a fun trios match on TV. That's what those titles are there for, to have like superb, fun, spot heavy matches.
And then we got new tag team champions where Austin and Colton Gunn beat the Acclaimed, and Billy Gunn did not turn on the Acclaimed like I thought that he was going to.
Like everyone thought he was going to. So
I'm kind of intrigued about that. And since we haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm assuming that this is the thing that you are defending that people are upset about.
Yeah, so everyone is pissed that the Guns won the tag titles because the Guns aren't as...
They're not as indie-rific. For lack of better words, they're not as indie-rific.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, just from every other tag team champion that's been in the company so far, they are the worst wrestlers, and they're the worst team to hold those titles.
Yeah.
I know that's already like a week into it. But I will say this. First of all, we need to actually see how the reign plays out before we completely bury this. So we need to wait and see and give it a little bit of patience to see what they can end up doing with the tag titles, because I remember a time in the distant past when I did still enjoy NXT, when a tag team called the previously known as the Mechanics defeated the Vaudevillains for the tag team championships, and everyone at that point thought, "Who the fuck are these guys?" And then they ended up being the Revival, and then FTR, and then they're considered one of the greatest tag teams of all time. I'm not saying that the Guns will ever live up to that thing. Nothing that I've seen of them so far suggests there'll be anything more than a decent mid-tier tag team going forward. But occasionally you need to have a team win that everyone really dislikes, because when they eventually lose the titles, it's a more positive feeling at the end of it. And sometimes this is the biggest stretch. This is the big stretch that I'm going to have, and I'll let you guys comment on it as well afterwards. But the big stretch that I'm going to make for this is that sometimes you need to book a match to have what in many people's eyes is the wrong result. And the reason why I think that should happen is because when the best example I can think of is Kofi Mania. So one of the things that made the Kofi and Daniel Bryan match from WrestleMania 35 that's like gripping and intense is not because, well, obviously the story building up to it was really good, so I'm not taking away from that. But the main reason is because everyone was on the edge of their seat whether WWE would make the wrong decision.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was just so worried that they'd just have Kofi lose on in a match where he absolutely could not lose. But sometimes, the reason why that ended up having like a more euphoric feeling when they did eventually win. So I think that AEW needs to have, in certain cases, obviously not make a habit of this, but I think they do need to have certain matches where they pick the quote unquote wrong winner, because it means that going forward, you're always going to have a bit in the back of your mind of like, oh shit, they had the Guns beat the Acclaimed that one time, so that anybody could win this match, even though it makes no sense for this other team or other person to win the championship. They could win it. So again, maybe that is too much of a stretch, but I think that realistically, the grand scheme of this is that they're going to be transitional champions that will drop the titles to FTR.
You're still holding hope that FTR is going to be sticking around there?
Well, that's the whole story, isn't it? That's the story that they started this thing with, which is... I didn't have any hope until this happened. Then I saw this and thought, okay, well...
They must have FTR, yeah.
Yeah, this whole arc started with the Guns beating FTR. And then doing that whole funeral segment for them. So clearly, like, the only course of action for this is that they're going to drop the titles to FTR. That's the only thing that... If that doesn't happen, then I don't see the logic at all of this result, and then I would be totally on board with what everyone else is saying. Is like, this makes absolutely zero sense. I'm not saying it would happen at Revolution, because I don't know when the FTR are even coming back, but I think that this has strengthened my resolve that FTR are not going back to WWE, and they're at least staying in AEW for the time being.
See, I don't necessarily think that this is going to lead to FTR, but I don't dislike that they put the belts on the Guns. And yeah, maybe we do get FTR winning the belts back. Maybe we get Top Flight. Maybe we get Private Party. Maybe they're just holding it for the Lucha Bros. Like, it could be a number of different things, but
they have to be. It has to be FTR.
That seems like that would make a lot of sense if they.
Because they haven't shown any... It's not like the Acclaimed were, okay, it's wild that these guys are getting as over as they are, but I get it, you know? they haven't shown that with the guns. So it just feels like, hey, we're gonna put it on these guys, and you're gonna boo because when we finally put it back on these guys, the pop's gonna be insane.
In any fashion, I'm like, I think that maybe the Acclaimed kind of beat everybody that they get beat, and yeah, they could win it back too. That's another thing. Like there's nothing stopping that from happening.
It's not like it's written in the stars that they can never win it back.
Yeah, so I'm sort of like, I'm okay with this. There's certainly plenty of other options that would have been worse, and they're gonna get boos, and
they're strong enough at that they can just run some tag team feuds on their own, which don't involve the belts. So they've gone over to the point where they can just be involved with another team for a while, and you put the titles on other people in the meantime.
I'm good with this being the end of it, though. With the Acclaimed and Bill Gunn and the Guns, I'm good with it ending here.
I think they'll do the rematch. They'll do a rematch at Revolution, is my prediction.
Maybe. But I would also say that I genuinely hope not.
So those are the hot tags that I've got written down. Am I forgetting anything else?
Amari Miller just said she tore her MCL.
Oof, that sucks.
She's going for surgery next week. That's off the top of my head. That's most I can think of. Did we cover? And there's not much here, but did we cover Cody being like, "Yeah, we didn't need The Rock"? But I know for a while at the start of the week, that was something that people were talking about.
No, I don't think we did. But is he just basically saying, "Trust in me, I'm not gonna fuck this up"? Kind of.
It sounds like he's saying "trust in me," but I also think he's just saying like, "No, we're working hard. Everybody's working hard. That we shouldn't have to go back to The Rock just because."
Yeah. I did read one little thing. I don't have a whole lot of faith in it, but because I don't even remember where I seen it. But it's something about the idea that they were going to potentially introduce a different world title for Cody to win.
No, that's what they were gonna do. Like they were determined to have two titles, and if they didn't, they would have just merged Roman's into one belt, and then said, "Here's another belt."
Which that's one of the worst case scenarios, I think, where it'd be like, well, the WWE title and the Universal title are now the Universal title, and the WWE Championship lineage goes away, and then we create a generic World Championship or something. I would hate that if that was the case.
As wild as it is, that's kind of what they did with the tag belts. The current lineage of the Tag Team Championship doesn't go back.
Totally reset.
Yeah, it starts actually with Benoit and Angle. They retired the ones that go back all the way.
I don't like when they do that. They did it with the Cruiserweights too. Like the Cruiserweight was like, "Oh, it's a brand new championship," and it's the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. Just bring it back, and just be like, well, ignore some of the other things in the past to remember the good things. Because it's not like they don't reference it,
Yeah.
They would talk about people being multi-time tag team champions from the previous era. So, yeah. I didn't come across any other news stories. Maybe something else breaks. Maybe we totally forgot about something. Maybe you want us to talk about something else in mind, like our opinions about Oney Lorcan apparently retiring from in-ring action. And just focusing on being a coach.
When did that happen?
Seeing something about it now. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's the thing. I guess we could give predictions for what happens on SmackDown tonight. We got number one contenders for the Intercontinental Championship Fatal 4-Way happening. You guys think it's going to be Gunther against Karrion Kross? You think it's going to be Gunther against Rey Mysterio? That's where I'm leaning. Or Madcap Moss or Santos Escobar?
I would say Rey Mysterio, and I would say let's get Dominic over to SmackDown because following Chamber, Judgment Day has all rights to go to SmackDown because Raw just got 4 new people. They got Boogs, they got and the maximum amount of medals. So, I would say move Judgment Day over there. That's not an even trade in terms of credibility, but it's an even trade in terms of 3 men and 1 woman, and that allows for Rhea to do her thing with Charlotte. That allows for Ray and Dom to do their thing. And that gives Edge something else to do at WrestleMania because there's no way, I know you'd mentioned it before, but there's no way they're doing Edge and Balor at Mania.
I still think it's going to happen.
Oh yeah, they're definitely doing Edge versus Balor at WrestleMania.
I think that's a shame.
So do I.
Yeah. I would say Mysterio. Mysterio makes the most sense, but they've already done Gunther versus Rey Mysterio.
Mm-hmm.
But then the only other babyface is Madcap Moss.
Yeah, which is what I think it's going to be Madcap Moss. Or it's going to be Santos, one of those two, I think. I think they could do Santos because they can do the whole 3-on-3 thing.
Yeah.
Even though it's not strictly like it's a heel versus heel, but that's fine. Just a one-off match.
Karrion Kross makes the least sense to me, which kind of makes me also think maybe they're going with Karrion Kross.
Well, the reason why I don't think it's either Karrion or Mysterio is because those two are feuding. So surely that they haven't had they have had a one-on-one match actually, the Mysterio one, but surely they're going to do another match with Karrion Kross winning. You'd imagine at some point.
We'll figure out what happens tonight when it comes to that. But in the meantime, of course, drop your thoughts in the comments below and tell us what you thought about all these things that we talked about. Make sure that you are clicking on all the other things we mentioned before. Stay tuned to the Dusty Rhodes contest to find out who wins that. Keep putting in your entries for it. Make sure you stay tuned to the Smark Madness tournament that'll be coming up in the next few weeks. We will break down that in more detail when we have more to talk about with that. Make sure that you are checking out fanboysanonymous.com and scoping out the Blueprint Project, a bunch of other things as well. Who knows what's going to end up happening with there because I just keep having more and more ideas that I want to do. So show your support for that and all the other things by clicking on the Patreon and the subscribe button and the like button and hitting up the Redbubble and TeePublic shops and tossing a little spare change our way to keep the lights on here. And as you go and do your click sprees and follow our accounts and stuff, make sure you go to anthonymango.com and see all my other links, and make sure that you go to what these guys have and follow them as well.
Yep, follow me everywhere at Dude Police. Check out all my stuff on Fightful. Check out all my stuff on WrestleZone. As always, I appreciate every bit of support, and for now, I will send you over to Cal Muggins.
You can find me on Twitter at Weekmeister14. You can check out the power rankings, which will be coming out on Saturday. Where you can see where I'm ranking the WWE superstars as we continue the journey towards both Elimination Chamber and then on to WrestleMania. And on that same journey, you can follow the Fantasy League, who's been picking up points, which wrestlers are helping us claw our way to the biggest score possible before the winner is revealed at the close of WrestleMania. So follow that either through Smark at moment or go to wwefantasyleague.com.
All right, everybody, that's it for the hot tags. Go back and check out our Superstar Scores Batista for the main event of this week. Stay tuned for next week's main events, which will be the pay-per-view point breakdowns of the Elimination Chamber predictions. And then, of course, after the hot tags, we'll end up doing another pay-per-view point post show of the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. That happens on Saturday. And stay tuned as well for another episode of the Darkcast for the members that are subscribed on Patreon or YouTube. But as far as episode 584 is concerned, that's it for us. We want to thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. This is another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.